When you think about opportunity, you sometimes think, well, gee, when I retire, I'm going to have the opportunity to collect Social Security. And, I don't know, do you still think that's true anymore? How old do you have to be to think that's true? You got to be 20, you got to be 30, 40. I mean, at some point in time, you're like, I ain't getting it.
That's pretty much true. You've got to really have a lot of confidence in what's going on right now to think that that's even going to be available to you.
Especially with what's going on in Greece. And I mean, it's amazing. I'm Ben Brash, and we're here with Glen Thiessen, wealth advisor with Transition Planning. And, hey, we could talk actually just the viability of Social Security, because kind of what current events, Greece, literally, that's going down the tube.
Yeah, last time, Ben, we talked about some people like to delay their Social Security so that they start with a higher amount, and that compounds, into a larger benefit throughout their lifetime, right? But we talked about, there are some things to consider before actually making that decision. And one of them is, what's your life expectancy? If you're sick, if you're not going to, live that long, you want to take it earlier, like age 62. If you have other resources, like enough of a pension or other investment assets that you can draw from, you don't need to take the Social Security, sure, go ahead and delay it. And then you'll have a larger benefit over the rest of your lifetime. But what I ended the session last time with was, one of the really serious things to consider is the viability of the Social Security program.
When we say viability, we're really saying, is it going to be there or not?
That's true. Let me give you some statistics. First of all, it's really helpful if people do go to my website, and that's www.transitionplanninginc.com. And there's a resource tab there. And under that resource tab is a featured links. In there, you're going to find the National Debt Calculator. You might want to take a look at that from time to time, because
it's mesmerizing.
It's
like a consistent slot machine.
Quite frightening. Currently, the national debt stands at $15.7 trillion. The current deficit is $1.3 trillion, which means that the government is spending $1.3 trillion more than it takes in every year. So that's not counting the interest on the debt. That's just overspending by that much. By the way, they have not had a budget to work on or from over the last 3 years. So imagine that. So
1.3 trillion is a lot.
That's a lot to overspend your income. Right. Now, the Social Security, let's get to Social Security. That's the unfunded liability. That's $15.6 trillion. That's the unfunded liability for Social Security. The prescription drug liability is $20.6 trillion.
So more than we already are in debt.
Yes.
There's already a liability against. So really, we're in debt like 60 trillion.
No, it's worse than that. Medicare.
Sorry.
The Medicare liability is 82.4 trillion.
We're done.
So the total unfunded, and that's an important word, unfunded liabilities is $118.8 trillion. So that is growing, and I timed this, it's growing by 7 million every minute. Okay? So
I don't even think Alex Rodriguez makes that much money.
As it stands, that means that for every taxpayer, meaning you and me, we owe $1,046,498.
How much?
$1,046,498. Now, that's before you even go out and borrow money for a home. Okay, you owe that much in terms of this unfunded liability. That's just dealing with the social programs that the government has put together. So I have a very important question to ask when I'm done talking about this. But first of all, I just wanted to say unfunded means that there was a trust fund that was established on January 1, 1940, that the government set aside for funding the Social Security benefits. But that has since then been absorbed into the general fund. Okay, so really the benefits that are payable right now depend largely on the current tax being collected off the workforce. So right now, there's obviously fewer workers that support each retiree today than there were way back when Social Security started. So, and by the way, a higher unemployment figure doesn't help that situation. People are living longer now than when Social Security started, right? Life expectancy has expanded, so benefits are payable for more people over a longer period of time.
With the current I just read this the other day, that with the current life expectancy, people who are born today will, quote unquote, be retired and collect Social Security longer than they worked.
That's right. And, it's kind of funny when you think about the over age 100 population is one of the fastest growing populations, segments of the population. It's kind of crazy.
That's why that Medicaid bill is so big.
Well, yeah. And speaking of Medicare, the Social Security program, this program has expanded its benefit package almost every year since it was first established in 1935. So if you're providing more benefits to more people for a longer period of time, and we're already this far in the hole, there's a very important question to consider. I'll come to it in a moment. So some of the questions that I've been considering is, where is this money going to come from? Right? Where do you think we're all going to get this $118 trillion? I don't have $1 million to give to the government. Right?
I don't even have $1 million. I mean, let alone to give to the government or anybody for that matter.
Right. So it's kind of scary. What did people do before all these government programs came along? Right? They depended on family. They worked. They went out and, got a job. They actually, contributed to their own retirement program. And, I'm sure that they did stuff to survive before the government came along.
Well, hold on. Before the government came along, retirement there wasn't necessarily retirement in the wild, wild west. In the 1880s, it wasn't like, I'm going to go retire on a beach in Maui.
Right.
There's probably a little bit difference in what retirement was. It was probably sitting on your farm while your kids worked it.
Well, that's true. That's true. Now today
I don't mean to, bust you up on what retirement was in the 1800s, but, I don't think there was as many golf courses and.
Oh, sure. Lifestyle is, quite different.
And they died at 50.
Yes. And that's why Social Security was supposed to start at 65.
So half the people wouldn't even get it.
Right. So a lot has changed since the whole program started. Okay. So, when you think about it, the government does print money. They can do that, but they don't create money. All right. So what the government can do is they can take resources from the people who have created money and redistribute those resources to other people, right? So being financially independent, it means that you don't have to be on the receiving end of charity, right? And you can actually experience the joy of actually reaching out to help people who might have a need. It's nice to do that on a voluntary basis, right? But being forced to do that through, taxes collected by exponentially growing, government and so forth, that could be scary. So the question that I have, in summary of all of this data, is how realistic is it to think that the Social Security program can continue to pay more benefits to more people for a longer period of time with fewer workers supporting more retirees, managed by a growing government operating without a budget that currently spends over $1.3 trillion more than it takes in?
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but if a train left Chicago going at 30 miles an hour, it is a really good question. I'm looking at at your sheet here, and pay more benefits to more people for a longer time with fewer workers and more retirees, with government spending more than they make.
It's a bad situation. How do we fix it? That might be a good discussion question for at the end of the program today. I don't know.
How do we fix Social Security? Yes.
How do we fix
I bet we can solve it.
The overspending problem.
Yeah.
Because we can't do that. I can't spend more than I take in without going in the hole, seriously, and then wrecking my credit, right? And a company can't do that because then they're going to end up going out of business and taking huge losses like you were just talking about earlier. So somehow we've got to have a genius come in and figure something out and make sense.
So I'm here.
Okay.
And, it would seem simple enough, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it, that maybe 62 is a little early since a lot of people don't retire at 62.
That's one adjustment. I'm thinking that an adjustment or several will have to be made.
Some type of staggering.
Right.
Like, right after I turn 62, they can turn it down. Glenn, you bring up a lot of good points, and I don't mean to joke, because it really isn't a joking matter. And, people have to really consider this. But this is kind of what you guys do in your business, is help people through this plan, because the transition of going to retirement, you can't, it's not a silver bullet of a plan that's always going to work. You have to plan for the opportunity of Social Security to be there. And you have to understand the potential of it not being there.
Right. Being more and more financially independent, meaning that you're debt free, that you have a rein on your lifestyle so that you're not overspending what your income is, having a growing cash reserve to go into the future. But thinking about, when retirement is not just economics, it is lifestyle. And hopefully you'll enjoy a long, healthy retirement, because if you lose your health, you've lost everything. Right? So stay healthy, plan ahead, don't overspend your income, and learn from the mistakes that the government is making. Don't follow their example, and have a budget, basically. Know what your limits are, stay within those limits, and have a good way of storing money effectively so that you can control income taxes, you can get some appreciation as well as interest, and basically be self-supporting.
We're here with Glen Thiessen with Transition Planning, Inc., and discussing Social Security. Will it be there? Will it not? Glenn, so do you just think then, if somebody's nearing that retirement age, you have to start taking it because you don't know how long it's going to last?
That is a lot of the times what I recommend, but then again, it depends on your resources. Like, for example, if you do have sufficient resources, investment assets, and so forth, what if you just go ahead and start taking Social Security anyway and let your resources grow? Like, let your investments grow, because whatever you're taking from Social Security and not from your investments.
Compounding interest versus just simple interest.
That's exactly right.
Glenn, thank you for joining us. Truly, it is a pleasure. And, when you bring up these points, people have to think about these at some point in time or another. You know what else government spends too much on, though? How is it going to cost $41 million to fix our police department? Did you see that? It was the cover of the Seattle Times. $41 million to fix. How bad is it?
You know what I don't understand is why people who voluntarily do destruction to public property don't get fined for that. Wouldn't that be a great source of revenue?
My wife thinks if they were to just sit on the carpool lane and just actually bust people for driving the carpool lane, then we'd probably fix the whole deficit.
Yeah, it could.
But I'd be coming out of my pocket, which would be a whole problem. Glenn, thanks so much for joining us. We have to go to break. Glenn Thiessen with Transition Planning, Inc. When we come back, you may have a small business. You may want to know how to grow it. We're going to tell you a secret that you may not know. And then at the end of the show, David Murphy's here. He's going to join us. We're going to discuss a little bit about credit and what you need to know about it, especially if you need it someday. My name is Ben Brash, and you're listening to Brashenomics.